So, welcome, Chad, to the podcast creation. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about you and 2x2, the company that I'm working with, and you're the owner and founder of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a little summary on you. This is from a bio I remember you gave me a while back. Since 1998, we've been slowly adding properties to our portfolio, everything from land plays to multifamily and everything in between. Our experience comes from years of working in residential new construction, residential remodels, residential developments, commercial rentals, and commercial developments.
Yeah.
So I've come to know you as the $30 million man because since 98, you have started amassing quite the portfolio.
Yeah.
I met you because I called you, and I called you based on some of your properties. You had some multifamily, I believe it was in Bastrop, Texas, that I called you.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we started building a relationship. You became a great mentor. It was everything from a work mentor to a spiritual mentor.
Yeah.
And I've seen that you've been a family man and a man of creations. I'll say that.
Creations, that's funny.
So
I can see that. Yeah.
So one of the latest news is you unveiling your company or starting your new fund called 2x2.
Yeah,
So
we're excited. We're really excited about 2x2 Capital Management.
Tell us a little bit more about it.
Gosh. You know, it's really it's the end game of my dream and my wife's dream when we first started doing real estate was we wanted to help others out in real estate the way that we got into real estate. So for us, 2x2 is kind of founded on the idea that we are looking to help individuals out who are wanting to get into real estate. You know.
Sorry, it wasn't recording.
Oh, it wasn't recording. Oh, yeah.
All good. So okay. Tell us. So
it's kind of founded on that. 2x2 was founded on those premises of wanting to build a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start over?
Yeah, we can start over. So, all right. Cool. All right. And the only thing is just be a little bit aware. Like every now and then, every minute
is
or
it
so.
Spiking?
Yeah. Just take a look at the volume.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. So we'll start again. And we already have the clap ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome, Chad. So we're going to be talking about quite a bit today, but I'm going to give a little introduction to you. So I met you because you own some multifamily property.
Mm-hmm.
I cold called you, built a relationship with you saying, hey, I'm a young, hungry guy wanting to learn
I'm in college. I'm doing report. Yeah.
And I'm wanting to learn how you got to where you are because that's eventually where I want to be.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation. I got to know a little bit more about you and the things you've done. So I'm going to read a little bit of your bio and just give a small introduction to you. So since 1998, Chad has been slowly adding investments to his property and his portfolio, varying from land plays to multifamily and everything in between. His experience comes from years of working in residential new construction, residential remodels, residential developments, commercial rentals, and commercial developments.
Yeah.
So you've been everywhere.
I've tried a lot. I definitely tried a lot of different strategies, a lot of different practices to get in the real estate game. So it's been a fun ride, but it's been rough too. But it's been fun, educational.
Yeah. So I've come to know you as a $30 million man. You've slowly started to build this portfolio. And right now it's a lot of land. We're currently looking to develop it with 2x2. And I'm now working with you in 2x2. So a lot of things have been happening since I first met you. And I was that young, hungry college student.
We've been making moves since we first met, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting. 2x2 has has definitely been the end game for me and the wife. That's been something that when we first started in this real estate game, we talked about having an option and what that looked like at the very end, and would that be enough rental properties coming in so that we had enough money coming in to where we can help others out and get them into real estate. That's where it started from. That's the foundation that we built on. Was we needed help to get into real estate. We asked family and friends to help us get into real estate. We got kicked back on some, and then there was some that said, "Yeah, we'll help you. How can we help you?" And so we got started in real estate. So 2x2 is kind of built on that same foundation or that same principle that we want to help. We want to provide a solution where others can't. And so 2x2 is a $100 million fund. It is set up with $55 million of those funds going towards lending. And that goal is to find someone that has a potential project that needs financing. And we'll provide those instruments to get them where they need to go. But that's not just all we do. There's more. But wait, there's more. So let's say you've got the idea, but you don't know where to go to get the project done. Who to talk to? Well, 2x2 helps you do the entitlement process. 2x2 says, we'll come in and hear what you've got, help design your plans, help get you with the right teams, if not our team, to get the entitlements done, to get your contracting done, get your budgeting done, get all that set ready for you to pull the loan.
Yeah. So the way I've been describing it is that we typically have 3 buckets. We have the lending side where we're essentially helping local developers and other people like start building Texas. We're in the Central Texas Triangle. I believe it's the 4th largest little area within the United States. And that says a lot. We're
growing, we're moving, and everybody's coming to Texas. Texas is a good spot to be. So I do believe in this movement of building Texas. We've got a lot of people coming. We need to get ready. And so for me, I'm seeing the writing on the wall. Let's get ready. So we're planning right now. We're looking at buying those assets. We're looking at buying those commercial properties. We're looking at doing stuff ourselves. I mean, the other side of our portfolio that you were talking about, the 3-pronged side of things, we still have the buying side of things. We've got $45 million, just part of this fund, to buy those assets and to help develop the number of assets under management for us. So we've got a 3-pronged approach to developing our fund. So we have many ways to get our investors their money. We've got 8% as a
preferential return.
Yeah, we're trying to get that every year, right? So that's a minimum way you can make money. There are fractional deals that you can get into with us as a partnership that you could turn around and get 50% of those profits and make your residual return. So I mean, there's opportunities within the fund 100%.
So what we're essentially trying to do is build awareness for the fund. It's a little bit more of a godsend project. Slowly we've had the lending side come in where we're helping developers with construction loans, short-term loans, and bridge loans. Then we also have the development experience of Chad. He's been doing this since '98, has amassed a $30 million portfolio. And within that, we've slowly started to have some land to develop. Currently, we're developing around 22 acres in Bastrop. And then the third prong or the third aspect of the fund is joint ventures coming in with your every average
family owners. And let's say a family member owns 100 acres and I don't know what to do with the 100 acres. It's been in my family for 3 generations and we don't know what to do with it. Well, those kind of solutions, we come in and we look and we say, oh, you see what you have. We come up with solutions for the situation. And typically it's a win-win. So the main goal is legacy properties. Our goal is for everyone to start realizing the opportunity of what it's like to have money coming in residually through the bank account, just the same as it would be coming from doing YouTube. just the same as it would be from all the other places where you're putting your fruit of labor. Well, you put your fruit of labor in initially, and then it continues to feed you.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to accomplish with individuals that have their own property. We help guide them in the approaches of creating legacy.
So there's quite a bit about the fund. A lot of the times there's I can't remember the stat, but it said something along the lines of X million of baby boomers are retiring this year, and a lot of people don't want to take, or a lot of their heirs don't want to take over their business.
That's right.
So that is where companies like us come in and flourish. We want to be able to help the heirs, the people, the lineage going down, and not let something that they've built go to waste.
That's right. You've got families that have, kids that no longer want their dad's business, their grandfather's business. But those are hardworking families that worked hard to keep it where it's at. Why let that be wasted? Because no one else wants to see the opportunity there. Well, we will at least have the opportunity to come in and look, come in and see if we could offer up a solution that prepares the future for someone else. Then, maybe even them. But that's how we address it in many ways. We're there to help in developing. We're there to help in raising the capital. We're there to help in building, getting the structure sold. We even got the sales team on the other side. I mean, basically, you just drop it off. Here's my property, and I'll come back when it's done, and let me have my money. That's the way a turnkey solution is what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah,
make it simple, especially for people that are just not trying to come into the game. This is a great time to come into this game. I mean, think about it. We're in what people are calling a recession or a soft landing. Whatever it's going to come out to be, it doesn't matter. We already have lost 10 to 12% in our marketplace today. So what does that mean across the board? We're down 10 to 12%. We're going to fall a little bit more. We're going to be in a big grab for properties. So what do we want to be? We want to be ready to grab those properties with our investors to be able to move those products into a higher grade for them or into a cash flow grade for them. One or the other. So if it's a dilapidated property, then we turn around and we remodel that, get that out to the public, and then we're done. And then everybody gets to reap the rewards. But if it's something that is already existing, maybe we turn it into a rental property.
Yeah. So to simplify it, there's a lot of land and assets and tangible property that is up for grabs nowadays.
Yeah.
And what we do is essentially come in and help the average family have an exit plan.
Yeah, multiple exit plans. That's the key too. I like to really look at, again, 3. We've got 3 options coming into how we do the fund, but I also like to look at 3 exit options when I go into looking at a project. And so that's really huge to see how I'm going to exit, whether it's going to be a remodel, whether it's going to be a resale, or whether I'm going to have to partner up. Those are some options, right? Maybe I sell half of my shares to a buddy so that I don't have to carry the cost all by myself. That's that third prong that most people don't even think about. It's like I either own it and rent it, or I sell it. That's your typical responses, right? But what about having a partner come in?
Yeah.
What about not taking that risk all yourself?
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's really ideal to start creating situations like that. That's a situation that I personally took a year off of school to try to find
and understand.
I understood that I had no experience coming into this, or relatively little. I've been doing real estate since I was 18. I'm 21 now, and I could still say I feel like I know very little.
Me too.
So there's a lot of learning, and this is where I started taking the time to reach out to people like you, to reach out to people who've been in the game for a while, to understand what their methods are, their ideas, to try to bring you a deal, to try to bring you some sort of value. And now we're doing that to the masses.
We're moving that ball. It's interesting how that's all coming together.
Yeah.
I contribute that to, God. I believe 100% that He has He's established these things in you. and you have listened and moved in those directions to, making phone calls when you're scared to make phone calls, but God's moved you in your spirit enough to get you to do what you've done. And so for me, that's a godsend. You've listened, you're here, and then at the same time, we're chasing down these visions that God's given us, these ideas, these properties, these things that are coming forward. We're doing what God's asking us to do with them. So it's like, I believe that you're 100% right where you're supposed to be. I believe that everything that you're bringing, the talents, the treasures, everything you're bringing is everything God's gifted you with. And I think it contributes entirely to what we do as a model. It's part of our model. So it's important that you're a part of it. And I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you making that phone call a year and a half ago. You know?
Do you want to tell the story of that phone call?
Well, that was pretty interesting. Here we are. My wife and I, we do we still get out. When we were flat broke, had nothing. We were living in a 200 square foot garage apartment, starting real estate. We were asking everybody, how can we make money? Where can we make money? I'm just getting my real estate license, trying to figure my path there, right? And not really understanding things. We basically were approached about it, so we jumped all over it. That 200 square foot garage apartment was pretty small. We learned how to do real estate by diving in the hard way. Starting from scratch, not having anything, and coming out of there going, I'm swinging, here I am. And you say $30 million, I don't even feel that. It feels like I'm still there because I'm still within my happy place. Real estate makes me happy. I love buying property. I love looking at properties. I show up on a property like I did today, right before coming here. I show up on a property. A guy calls me. He says, hey, I've got issues with the property. I had a contractor run out on me with my money. I gave him the money. He's gone. I don't know what to do. I show up and look at the property. I'm walking it. I'm hearing him out and listening. Okay, how much to buy it for? Okay. How much you're into it for? Okay. Oh, man. And there's no more money? No. What's your sales price? Oh, my gosh. Dude, there's no money. By the time you get done finishing what needs to happen, and you go to sell it, now you're losing $15,000. I don't see you pulling out of this. I need to walk the property some more. I need to look at it. I need to really, hone in on what's going on. Well, a lot of times when I'm coming into a neighborhood, the key thing in the neighborhoods is you're driving, you start looking. Look at what is around you. For me, I started noticing my things. How many units are on a lot? In that particular instance, I found one that had 4 doors on one lot. Hey, if that's possible, that's a good sign. Well, I'm sitting here walking around this guy's lot, and I'm going down a street, 3 blocks down or 3 lots over. There's four doors. There's 2 duplexes on one lot. This guy's got one house. I got it. If you can get an ADU, a secondary unit in here, call it a single unit or a duplex if you can get that. You bought the lot for, say, $100,000. Now that lot gets cut in half, that lot cost. So the initial $40,000 this guy thinks he lost, he was able to recapture back because now you split up the second half of that lot. And now you've bought that lot for nothing, right? So you actually can transfer, if it's $100,000, now you transfer that into divisible numbers. So it's divisible by 2. So now you paid $50,000 for the front lot, $50,000 for the back lot. So if he lost $40,000 on the front lot, he just recaptured that by creating that $50,000 on the back end, right? So it's interesting how you have to approach these things, but you have to really look at them logically and identify what's around you. So go to your neighborhoods, look at those properties, look at what's being done. You see a single house and you see another house across the street's got 2 units, and that one's going for $100,000. Where are you going to buy a lot now that's for 50,000?
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? So you just got 2 lots for the price of 1. That's smart development.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, in having a lot of these conversations with you, I feel like you started to understand different counties. They also refer to them as ETJs, or certain areas within cities, and different city ordinances and different ways to approach it, because the city and county are not always on your side. They
I'm learning a whole new game. Let me tell you, I didn't realize that politics played as much of a role as they do. And I've always said that I'm not that kind of guy that wants to play that game. There's no need for it. But when you get into large scale developments where you're moving the way cities do business, there's politics involved. That's new for me. That's new out of this walk that I'm walking in, is that there's politics, and I don't like it. I don't like the way that it has to be done. I really felt like that things should be done because it's necessary, not because it makes money. I don't have to do those developments that I'm doing. I'm doing them because they create opportunity for community. It's not about me. It's about how does it benefit in whole. If our towns and our cities and our countries would start thinking about that more regularly and really leaning hard into that, we'd have progress. We aren't getting progress in real estate at all because of the separation that we're having. You've got the separation from the upper class and the lower class, and there's no more middle class. Right? Your firefighters, your nurses, those people, they're struggling as it is too. And they're working their butt offs to keep us healthy. What's out there for them? I'm struggling today to build a product that serves those needs. I can't do it. It is so hard to do. I've looked at every kind of approach. There are 5 different methods for construction today of material, whatever kind of method that is. You've got your ISF, you've got insulated steel foam construction, you've got concrete construction, wood construction, earthen construction, and grass construction. 5 types of construction methods that you can use on a home today. None of them get me into the price point needed for people today without having mass purchasing power.
There's this person within the private equity space that I really like listening to. Her name's Cody Sanchez, and she talks a lot about a lot of the larger hedge fund companies that are coming out. I believe it was something around 24% of single families around COVID time were purchased by large corporations. So it's now difficult for us to be able to compete with those hedge fund managers, with those big run-of-the-mill corporations. So now I like what she says in her approach, and her approach is we got to start finding ways to create more businesses, to deconstruct from the bottom up. We got to start buying businesses, taking over those businesses that baby boomers are leaving behind, and taking over those responsibilities,
reshaping
our industries. That way we could have a little bit more say on what's going on,
and more sustainability. I agree.
And it's quite difficult. I mean, let's talk about how. First, I actually kind of want to talk about a little bit of the influence you've had on me within Christianity. So, for those who might not know me, I became Christian this past year, and I got baptized with Chad, and awesome. I remember meeting him, and one of the things that we first talked about was the idea of a mentorship, and I was with him and a buddy of his, Zach, who's also another developer So
and he works with us in 2x2 as well.
yeah, and he was telling me, Gabe, I think you're really sharp, really smart guy, and I like the way you're going. I like where your head's at, but there is one thing: we're not going to mentor you. And in my head, I was thinking, what? Why? I'm so deserving of this. I cold called him. I built this relationship. I've slowly started looking for ways to implement value. And then he was like, and I was like, so I was like, got to take a little moment to breathe through it and ask why. So I asked why, and he's like, it's truthfully because you're not Christian. I mean, we care for you and we want to see you grow, but we see that you're on the verge of coming over or starting to believe in God. And this is true since I came to college, I had another mentor who had been
praying with you and mentoring.
Yeah, he had been talking to me about life and just day-to-day things. And I had a bunch of questions and rebuttals. And after a year and a half of having so many rebuttals, I had no other choice but to listen. And slowly I started to believe, but I didn't want to accept it within myself. And you guys were the ones who gave me that little push. It's exactly what I needed. And through that, we started to foster a relationship. I went to a retreat that you invited me to.
Yeah.
And I got baptized on a lake, and that was kind of awesome. Because
it was awesome and cold.
And really cold.
It was cold, yeah.
And from there, I got to understand a little bit more about you and how you lead your business and how you constantly talk about having kingdom wealth and God-given purpose. So can you elaborate a little bit more on the idea of kingdom wealth and what it means to you?
Oh, kingdom wealth is God's money, number one. It's all his money. It's just what he wants us to do with it, right? So where do I go? The kingdom, it's just listening. Listening to what God wants. Listen to what he has for you. Listen to where you're going with him. Knowing the rights and the wrongs. And if you're not hearing him, then you're reading it, right? So it's one or the other when it comes down to that relationship. For me, leading my heart, my home, my business, my life, it's important to me to do what's asked of me scripturally. And that's to walk it out as Christ did. As hard as it is, that's what we're called to do. And so it moves me a lot when I start talking about my faith in Christ, my faith in walking things out, my faith in where I've been, where I've come from, and where I'm going. My coming into Christ more heavily was in 2016, and 100% fully in 2018. But finally getting on board in 2018 was the best thing I'd ever done. I was turning my life over to him 100%, letting him guide me with the things that I do, letting him guide me with the people that I communicate with, the way I pray, everything, just everything.
Yeah, I feel like there's this notion and idea of being Christian and not having money. I've like picked up on it from time to time where friends say like, "Oh, I want to be wealthy," but it like my heart's conflicting because like me being Christian has like a direct contradiction against that. So, and I feel like that may not always be the case. I feel like now we're seeing more Christian entrepreneurs come up.
There's a big movement. You know, we're part of the Christian Economic Forum, which is a worldwide forum. Paul and I have become members of the Economic Forum for a reason. We want to make impact, worldwide impact. Being a Christian isn't necessarily what you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you do it.
Elaborate.
Loving.
Mm-hmm.
How do you love? You love with compassion. You love with heart. You love with touch. You love with direction.
Mm-hmm.
You love with aspiration, inspiration. When you have those in combination, you have completeness.
Mm-hmm.
We're establishing ourselves on completeness. When I put all my trust in God, I've done nothing but establish things. When I take away from Him and try to put them on my own means, I'm stepping outside of the things He's already designed for me.
Mm-hmm.
That means I'm taking a colorful world and I'm throwing in a bunch of mess, is what it means. And so when I step into my own without His permission, then that's what I'm doing. I'm painting my own picture. Mm-hmm. Now, He does give me free will to paint my beautiful picture within His frame, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's guidance on how I do that, like you would a child. You know, you want to teach a child how to paint a nice little art painting on a piece of paper. You might follow and trace with them a little bit to give them some, this is how you stroke here. This is how, well, that's how God is with us. He's helping guide us every minute of all the day. Those are there all day long. How you receive it is everything. Run our business from that space entirely.
There was a interesting concept that I remember one of my friends I was having with her, and she was saying, I believe that there is, in a sense, like as Calvinists call it, predestination, and there's also free will, and how could those two exist on the same field? And in that sense, we're trying to put an infinite being into a finite space.
Yeah.
God is beyond time. So
That's right.
He knows all our pathways.
That's right.
And He always tries to call us back to it. So even though we have free will to go down all these pathways, He is there in every single version of it.
100%.
Willing to come and try to bring us back to Him. Try to have a relationship with Him. And I think I think a lot of people get caught up in religion as well, and I feel like that's one of the tricky aspects.
That's a deterrent. But if you really come back to the premises, Christianity is all about love. It doesn't matter anything. If you know love, then you know Him. So there is no other option. If you've ever loved your dog, if you've ever loved your mother, if you've ever loved your father, if your brother, your sister, your best friend, you know love. You know God. You're probably living in God and don't know that you're living in God because you're loving the way God wanted you to love. You just didn't know you had Him in you. That's the fun part, is that people have Him. They just don't know it. So the desire for Christianity is love. Regardless of all the hem-haw and the jacking around with this and that, love. How do you love? How are you serving? Are you looking for you? Are you looking to love? Are you looking to really help? Those are differences. 2x2 is truly looking to help. We want to love everyone that comes in our door. We want to look at everything that we have in front of us and say, we're loving this. We're looking at this with open arms, with open eyes, and with an open heart. We want to see how God wants us to be in this. We'll pray over it. We'll look at it. We'll go from there. We'll listen to what He's asking us to do. It's not just us.
Yeah, and it's always interesting seeing how a lot of the love for God is being portrayed. A lot of the times, I think everything gets misconstrued within media, and I think that's why a lot of people are starting to take breaks off of it and taking some time off of it. But it's the way I've always seen it is building a relationship with someone that always wants the best for you.
Yeah.
It's,
there's a new term for that has kind of come around, and that's like, who is in your clan or who is in your tribe. Those are some things, and it's like, get close to those in your tribe. Do community with them. And so, who's in your tribe? What does that look like? And what are they doing? Are you okay with what they're doing? I mean, I'm not trying to get into psychological issue here and get into how to teach people how to be people, but the reality is um, if you're walking a difficult walk, it's likely because you're out of love. It's likely because you're in a place where you're not feeling loved. If you're feeling these places and seeing these, then you, love's missing. We need to fill that void. We need to talk, because that's where Christ comes in.
Mm-hmm.
When you realize that you're not alone and that you're loved more than you've ever been loved, God, that changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally had to lay down all my stuff and finally give it up and put my total trust in Him, that was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
From where I've been, well, that was a lot. So I put my trust in Him, and today we're where we're at, and we're working really hard at staying where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't mean like hard, like laborsome hard, like staying focused hard, because we see the finish line. We know that God's got this for us. He's already given us the picture. He's already given us the opportunities. We're seeing them right now. The fund, you said a $30 million portfolio. You're right. That's a $30 million portfolio that turns into a $334 million portfolio because the vision of what God's given us is already outlined.
Mm-hmm.
So all we have to do is follow suit. You've showed us what to do with these properties. Mm-hmm. We'll come in and do it for those properties. And the benefit, why is He showing those to us? Because it benefits you. It benefits whoever comes to it. It benefits whoever puts money into it. Mm-hmm. And what does that do? It helps elicit more of the kingdom because it's kingdom driven. Mm-hmm. God's behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's always interesting to have these conversations, even with non-believers. It's always pretty. I always have a little bit more patience for non-believers, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I could be a very type 8 person. If anyone's taking the Enneagram test, that's like a competitive type, like very, very like focused. It's like my way, or like I'm gonna drill through it until I get it. Type of personality. And whenever I start talking about Christianity and my journey through it, I slowly start to take more steps back. It's like where I start to pay attention and listen a little bit more, because I remember whenever I was battling with it, it was more so being heard, and then once I was heard, I was willing to listen more. And I feel like most people want to be heard, but it takes a while for them to actually listen. And I feel like there's been mentors in my life that have heard me more times than I have listened to them, and it's created like it's created the journey. It's helped create the journey and create the process of me coming to God, and that's been what's been driving me. In this past year, where I took a year off of school, it was, in a sense, to someone else's eyes, it might have been seen as a step back, but I came to God within that year, and I also started meeting a lot more Christian entrepreneurs that wanted to see me succeed. Yeah. So in a sense, I didn't get the necessarily my goal that I wanted, but I started meeting people who were helping lay that foundation for that goal to be a little bit more stable. Yeah. We have a lot of fly-by real estate investors where they come in, they may get lucky on one deal, but it's because the market was moving a certain way, and they don't have a lot of the fundamentals, and that's right. They end up maybe
they get themselves in a hassle like today, this morning. The guy in San Antonio that I had to go look at. That's a predicament he's in. But we can get him out, and he can get into those situations really fast.
Yeah, and it's tricky, because a lot of the times I spent this past year building relationships with you and people like you, people that have already established themselves within the real estate industry and have helped to who have created something out of themselves and created something with their wealth. And a lot of the times I'm on social media and I see like a lot of these people, online gurus, news, and a lot of the times it's like these people are completely different people. Like there's a
Yeah, there's a fast talk and a fast way, and I'm familiar. I'm very familiar with some of the approaches on getting people in to listen so that you can benefit. Again, those are that's the system that I think is broken. When we come back again to the way, if America would start running businesses differently, and back to what you said, buying up these businesses that are legacy businesses and changing the dynamics of them again back to the way it should be, right? Which is caring about what you do and why you're doing it. Today's workers, we get a lot of people that I'm going to do it and do the very least on it. And so maybe not even show up. They might even just take your money and never show up. Or they might do a really poor job on doing the particular exercise. If it's building the deck, they might leave you short on several sticks that are crossing your walking path. And next thing you got boards popping up, you got things happening. But those are all things you're going to get when you've got people that don't care about their work. When they're not seeing value in what they're doing. They just are doing it because they need to do it. That's a problem in America today. I can't change that. But when you start giving people value for themselves and they start seeing themselves differently, when you allow God to establish a root in their life and they start to see what that looks like to do things differently, you see people come out of compassion. The next thing you know, you see people who a deck laborer who would have left it short. Now he's making sure it's real tight and clean and really nice because he cares about what he does. He cares that someone else is receiving his hard labor. That's compassion and that's love. When you walk away from that, you have this hatred. You've got this, who cares? I'll do whatever I want to do. And if they don't like it, well, whatever. They can't come after me. That's what we deal with today. A lot of contractors, a lot of people are burned that way. So if you're getting into doing this for the first time, watch out.
Yeah.
Because they're out there. They'll tell you, hey, I need this much money down right now to get started on your project. And then they never show up. Or they'll run you through the middle a little bit, and then they'll start raising the prices on you. And to the point to where now you're out of budget. And now you have to come up with a lot more money to the table, or you're stuck. Or, there's so many areas that they come at you with. The biggest ones are the ones I just talked about. Don't give any money away. Don't do anything. And when you have a signed contract, get them bonded. Get an insurance bond. If it's a big deal that they're doing, if it's a home that they're building for you, get them an insurance bond. Tell them you need to get a bond for X amount of money. You want the project, get a bond. So that way, if you fail, I get my money back. So get insurance on your project. Be smart about it.
That's an action step that I haven't heard of before, and I feel like a lot of new people haven't really heard of. Bonding your contractors.
Bonding your project. Bond the project. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I feel like there's a wealth of knowledge in you. There's all these experiences that you've learned through just being in the real estate field.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about a little bit more of what we're trying to do with the fund. So we talked about the construction lending, how we're planning on helping out developers who've already had experience or doing either partnering, but we also have developments that we have underway. And you've mentioned some interesting concepts, and sometimes they're maybe like flyby concepts, like, hey, this is just a thought. But one of the more interesting ones I remember you talking about was having a business plan for a church. Yeah. And that's something that I've never really heard of before. Having a business plan for a church. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? It's like, you don't have to mention like specific details, but maybe go into like, what is the philosophy and thought process behind it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's another deliverable that God's kind of obviously handed me to work on, and that is a church planting. And if you know what church planting is, that is basically standing up a new church in a new neighborhood and praying that people show up. Doing some outreach. Um, but that's a scenario. What he was showing me within the church planting process is that um, there's this restriction on the churches right now that's preventing the churches from growing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's called cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Cash flow helps us maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a real estate investor comes in and he learns how to do these skill sets, and he could turn around and have cash flow as an investor. And wow, now he can go out and take care of his family, go on vacations, pay for his vehicles, buy his house or her house, whatever that is, right? It is all done because they've taken the time to do an investment. So shall churches do investments. Why is it that they're bottlenecked? Why is it that they're held captive to you have to build it from within? Mm-hmm. You have to build it based on the number of people that come to your church and the number of people that donate money. Mm-hmm. That's a limitation. Mm-hmm. I got the download that that's the limitation. That the reality is that Satan has put that there with intent of blocking the church from doing more and doing greater things. And so the churches have been operating under the guise that I can't own a property, I can't own a retail center, I can't own these things that produce income that allow me to have cash flow that I can help send off another missionary, or I can help support this family, or that I can help raise this child up with. A lot of them aren't thinking that way. But there's a movement. God started a movement, and there's a movement. There are churches right now that are doing it. I've been actively working and talking with churches that are putting this into action. And that is taking control of your cash flow model. If corporate America can do it, so can the churches. Mm-hmm. And that isn't saying that we are losing the religion or that we're trying to step out of God's calling. I think we're stepping into God's calling, because if you go back to the Bible, it talks about that the land is the inheritance. Mm-hmm. That is our inheritance. And so if it is in our inheritance and it is in our wealth to have that inheritance, and he does tell us to till the land, to work the land, to make the money from the land. So when you look at the Bible and you look at the scripture, you start to really see, oh, God, you're right in what you're telling me. I hear what you're telling me. God, okay, why is the church not doing this? Why aren't they taking advantage of their inheritance? Mm-hmm. And that comes down to 100%. They have been stonewalled. They've been blocked. They've been kept out of the dark. Guess what? Pastors aren't taking business school. They're taking theology, right? They're not sitting here figuring out how to run the church. Mm-hmm. They're figuring out how to help people. So we want to come in beside those churches. Mm-hmm. We want to help establish those relationships, those models that help create the cash flow option for churches to sustain in their neighborhoods without the fluctuation of people getting upset and going, well, I'm gone. You just upset me because you didn't say what I wanted to hear. Well, guess what? They left, and so did their money. And now the church is going down because somebody spoke truth to them and they didn't want to hear truth. So how do you keep those up? You continue to have rental income coming in. You move those models into a cash flow model. And then once you've got, you say you get a building up, get a daycare in. Mm-hmm. Let the church have a daycare center as well. That's another avenue. So they're paying themselves rent and getting money for the daycare. So 2 different avenues of rent that they're not even thinking about, that the churches are missing out on. Mm-hmm. The mass of churches are missing. There's a few that are doing. Mm-hmm. So we're in that game. For me, that's a big model for us. We are actively helping churches within that model to establish rental properties that produce cash flow that help unfortunate, that help even those that aren't, those that just are in need. You know, um, there's so many needs, and there's so many broken.
Mm-hmm. I see that you're also a big family man, and one of the things that I remember you talking about is constantly having time for your family.
Yeah.
In these times of stress, I've heard about unbalanced lifestyles and maybe being unbalanced for a certain moments or certain points of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how would you go about balancing your family time with your work time, and also what do you think about those points in life where work life balance might be out of whack? Do you think it's like a necessary evil at times that you might be needing to have in order to pursue a greater purpose?
It's a good question. Family life is really important to me. Making sure that I'm there as a father, as a husband, um, is really important to me. It's hard to do that, but I have to choose family first. Business is business, but family is first, and obviously God's before that, right? But in choosing family first, I literally I shut my phone off. It comes on at a certain time and it goes off, so it doesn't ring unless you're in a starred section, and that means that we need to talk, kind of thing. So I schedule. Basically, my phone comes on at 9 o'clock in the morning. It rings, and then it goes off at 6 o'clock at night. That's it. That's my window. And in between there, I'm participating with my children through the day. We homeschool, so I might interact with them while homeschooling. I might interact with them while I come home, and we go out and play or do something. But for me, I've always had it in my heart to homeschool our children. It's something that God put in my heart, and I see why. There's a lot of fruit from it, and that fruit comes from what I get to teach my children, not what other families have taught their children or let their children learn that aren't acceptable in the categories of where I want my kids to see life. I prefer my kids to not be divulged to the cruelties of life yet. I want them to see love and affection in this world before they see the hatred and the cruelty of the world. Now, I'm not blinding them or shielding them in a way that I'm not saying, hey, this isn't out there. I'm truly emphasizing this is a crazy world, and I let them know a few times on how crazy it is. But the reason why I keep them from that, I tell them. So family is really important to me, and balancing that has always been easy in respect, because I've made my mind up. This is important. This is what I'm going to do, and people fit into that or they don't, because I don't call them back. I mean, if they're calling me in those times, I'm sorry, I'm with my family. And if I've missed your call and it was supposed to come through, then I need to call you, right? But it's because you know that it's family time, but that's important. I'm going to call, right? And so that would be a difference there, or it's a family matter, or we're friends, or there's something that's going to be in that category. But business, I shut it off. Now, go back this way. I eat, sleep real estate. So I never shut it off. So there's another aspect to it. So I'm always dreaming of real estate. I'm always thinking about real estate. I'm always wanting to buy real estate. So it doesn't shut off business for me. I love what I do.
So
I love what you do. And then you can really, really step back and be really a family man or a family woman.
Yeah, you're in a sense taking some of the, like, you're putting a stop to, let's say, appointments at a certain time.
Yep.
But there is this thought that I remember I learned from a critical thinking class with Larry Speck, the Austin airport architect.
Yeah.
And it talked about incubation. So a lot of the times we'll have a half a thought, and just slowly throughout the day we'll develop it. Throughout our day-to-day life, we just have little signs that just add to it and add to it, add to it, and slowly we start coming up with a a bigger picture, or a more full picture, or a full enough picture to create an action to go forth with it. And I remember this is something that you mentioned you had with 2x2. You said that in the beginning I had not really the surest idea of what 2x2 was going to be. But as God started putting certain things within my life, I started creating a more full picture.
Mm-hmm.
And you started talking about this. So I think it's always interesting to see how certain people and certain high performers and creative thinkers have that aspect to themselves.
Yeah.
They start incubating.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you call that incubation. I call that Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because Holy Spirit tickles me every day, right? And
Mhm.
it's this or that, right? And it can be instant, it can be gradual, you know. So when a lot of it's interesting, people say, um, I don't know what it was, but something told me.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard somebody say that? Something told me, or I don't know what it was, but I just felt like, right? That's all Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. It's all Holy Spirit. It's God in you already. Impromptu, man. Tapping on your heart. Hey, I'm in here. You know, so if you don't know him, you do know him. You just don't know that you know him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I really see that. And I really understand that to be true. And when it comes down to developing my senses and the things that I'm doing, it's definitely through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely through listening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had an investor yesterday comment about how that happens with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ray Walter, Capstone Capital Partners. He basically said, "Hey, you know, Chad, I love the fact that when you go out on the properties, it's like God just you show up and God starts talking to you, and you hear really well about what God wants you to do with those pieces of property." He's like, "I wish that I could hear that way.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I could really get out there and do that, but I can't."
Mm-hmm.
And it to me, I maybe there's favor in that. Maybe I've honed in on it. Maybe I've continued to grow in on listening to that small still voice. You know, so that the more you practice listening, the more you tune in,
Mm-hmm.
the more you start to realize, God, I'm listening to you, and now I'm walking it out with you, and now I'm seeing the fruit of that walk truly come.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting when you truly put it there and it happens. You're like, wait, how'd that happen? Because you believed. He gave it to you. You believed, walked it out. People all day long, they have no idea they're walking around and God's talking to them. They have no idea that the inspiration they have in their heart, their mind, comes from Him. Mm-hmm. He says He writes it on our heart. All the details, everything about you has already been predefined. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. You can sit and run around all day long. I'm going to go this way, that way, this way, that way. But no matter what, you're going to be right where God wants you. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter how you zig and zag. You're ending up in the same place.
I like one of Ray Walter's concepts. He has a group called Kingdom Entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Where a lot of Christian entrepreneurs come in and pitch their business to each other.
Yeah.
They try to partner up and help each other refer each other business and just get like a general talk about it. So I think it's awesome. Whenever I went to that retreat with Chad, I met Ray Walters, which is another
lender. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're actually we help each other. I mean, we're just good friends.
Yeah.
We help each other with business, so we'll throw deals to them. They throw deals to us.
Mm.
It just some deals might not look good for us, and they look better for them.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
In that retreat, I also remember meeting someone who was I'm not sure if they all want to be mentioned, so I'll just say someone who was working with recovery homes.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
he said he had over 50 people or 50 properties. I can't recall.
He's definitely doing very well for himself, and has been doing it for some time, and really helping people in the rehab center. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's everything from financial advisors
Mhm.
to people who have slowly started amassing wealth and slowly started
Mhm.
amassing certain opportunities for themselves. So I find it interesting how in Austin, Texas, there are these groups of people, and they're in these pockets, but
Mhm.
sometimes it takes time to find them, and it takes like the right searching and listening to certain messages. There was this person who said, this person I follow, his name's Patrick David, and he was talking about how he was like mad at God. He wasn't Christian. He was an atheist, and he was like going through a breakup, and he said, "You know what, God, if you're out there, I haven't talked to my mom in a while, and I'd really like to talk to her in this moment." And she called him crying, talking about, I had a sense that you were hurting, and he talked about a decision he had to make there.
Wow.
And the decision was, wow, this is really coincidental. I could rub it off as a coincidence and just leave it be, or I could see it was God really giving me the message I was hoping for, but not wanting to take.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the times we get caught up in these moments of ego and not necessarily letting ourselves submit to a
Yeah.
power of that,
Yeah.
because um, it's not in our control at the end of the day.
Mm-mm.
So
My wife was not a believer when I met her,
mhm,
and I knew that. When we started talking, I started asking questions. Part of dating. Yeah, we like each other a lot. What do you think about kids? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about religion?
mhm,
Oh well, religion. What is that? I believe there is a God. Something had to create all this stuff, but I don't know anything else.
mhm,
Okay. Well, I prayed heavily on that. Let me tell you, uh, God told me to stay.
mhm,
He told me to stay. He said, "She too, she will come. Be patient." 12 years later, my wife finally accepted Christ.
mhm,
Now, the interesting thing that really pushed her over the edge was we were in Colorado on a retreat. It's called Q1 with Quest, and we did this event with them. And this is a couples retreat. You've got to do this individual retreat first, and then once you do the individual retreats, then you can go on this couple retreat. Well, we did the couple retreat, and it's like day 2 or day 3 into this retreat, and Shannon is still struggling with hearing God, still struggling to believe that He is there. And I'm interceding for her, and I'm hearing him talk with her, and she's not hearing it. So I'm like, look, He's hearing you. He says you can ask him anything right now. And then all of a sudden, he would give me an answer for her. And I would tell him, she's like, how? I'm like, he's telling me ahead of time. She's like, oh, you're just doing your thing. I was like, okay, fine. Then you ask him. And so she just finally, she finally says, fine. Puts her hand out. She says, here's what I want. One raindrop right there. One raindrop. She didn't get a raindrop on the top of her hand. She got a raindrop on the bottom of her hand. It came from the ground up and hit her. It literally went boop, freaked her out.
mhm.
Freaked her out. God can do amazing things. He showed up that day, and that was it. That's all she needed. That was it. And from that moment on, she started giving him everything she needed. All the attention, all the grace, all the love, all the readings, all the dedication. She started pouring into him because, wow, if he can do that, he can do so much more in my life. Because he made that rain. He did the one thing she didn't expect to happen. Because look, raindrop, oh, the tree dropped the raindrop. Okay, the tree did that, right? He knew the unexpected and the expected. And he made it different. And he made it come from the ground up instead from the sky down. She didn't say how. She didn't say how. So God's incredible. I love how he has a personality. I love how he has a character. You know, he could talk and laugh with me. We can get cynical. I mean, those are who does that with God? Who has those conversations with God? Either I'm crazy or I'm really doing it. Same as Jesus, right? People say either he's crazy or he really is Christ. Well, I believe 100% he really is Christ. And the fruits of that are with me today.
Awesome. Well, I think we're wrapping up on time here.
I didn't mean for that to become a, God's just in charge. I'm sorry,
awesome.
guys.
I wanted to just have a little bit of time so you could just leave anyone who might be watching or maybe interested in hearing a little bit more about you or hearing about what you're passionate about or wanting to talk about. Is there any books that you recommend, podcasts, any messages that you want to say?
Man, there's so much. There is so much out there. There's no telling what direction things go. Books. Just depends on where you're at. I can recommend books, but where are you at? What situation are you in? I'd love to just let's talk. Send me an instant message. Let's sit and see what's really going on.
Email out there?
Yeah, you can put my email out there. Yeah, we can put chad.f@2x2capitalmanagement.com. And send me a message. I'll sit and talk with you. We'll sit and listen. If it's a book that's there, my main book that I refer is this one. Sorry about the pen.
Oh, good.
This one.
Bible.
Even having the conversation with my children the other day, I said, boys, look, all these things that I'm talking to you about as a parent, the only place that I know how to teach you what to do and what not to do is right here. So if you want to teach your children what to do and how to do it and how to live right, it's right here. If there was ever a life manual to how to do life and how to live it well, it's right here. If you want answers for how you feel or how much money to make or where you want to go to do it, it's right here. If you want to make money, well, it's simple to make money. How are you serving? It's not about how much money you have. It's how well you're serving, how well you're loving, how well you're giving. The fruits follow. I mean, my fruits haven't come in right away. I loved and got beat up along the way. Let me tell you, I got robbed, still destroyed. I mean, everything happened along the way. Accusations, all kinds of things. The enemy did not want me to have success. But if I'd listened to that every day, I wouldn't be here today. But because I listen to this every day, because God's in my heart, God's in my head, God's in my ears, He's in my breath, He's in my vehicles, He's in my home. Everywhere He is, I am. And because of that, the fruits show.
Mm-hmm.
But the enemy still wants to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just a hedge of protection that we have. God is covering us. Your prayers every day, your work every day. It covers you up. It's when you realize that. People might read it every day and never get it from here to here
Mm-hmm.
or here to here, right? There are two differences. And so, books, read the Bible. That's got all the answers in it. That's everything you need. It tells you how to spend money. It tells you not to park your money. I mean, there's things in there for that. It tells you how to handle relationships.
Well,
it tells you how to raise kids.
I'm kind of curious. What's the what are the
What are the three guys that got coins? You know that story? That parable of the coin?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll let you dig in.
Okay. Tell me
Look
what
at the parable of the coins. So basically, parable of the coins, the men that were given talents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were told to do well with the talents. Well,
Mm-hmm.
one guy did really well. Another guy did semi-well. Another guy buried them.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the guy who buried them did nothing with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
He had it all removed from him because he didn't do with what was given.
Mm.
The guy in the middle who did a little was praised and got some of what the other guy didn't do with, right? And the guy that had done a lot with, he got it all. And so the reality is that when God gives us something, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to sit on it? Or are we going to do something with it? That's all. It's right here. So you've got an idea. Do something with it. God put it on your heart. Do something with it. God put it on my heart. He says, Chad, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I'm going to do something with it. Even when I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I don't want to. I've got stories there. A lot of stories where I don't want to.
Even when you don't want to. Yep.
Right. God calls us into spaces that makes us uncomfortable. And so my biggest advice is get uncomfortable. Get uncomfortable.
Awesome.
Dig into the Bible, read your word, and get uncomfortable.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Chad. I guess you guys will probably be seeing us on YouTube. Feel free to reach out to either me. I'm on every social media. You could probably imagine. Not currently on any of the streaming platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, but we will pretty soon. Chad put his email, which was chad.f@2x2 Capital Management, and that is 2x2 capitalmanagement.com. It's the company that we're working at and hoping to build a lot more successful entrepreneurs from. So we hope to talk to you and see you there. You can email me always at GabeSellsATX@gmail.com. And yeah, if you guys want to have a conversation about any of the things we discussed today, we'd love to have that and bring on the real estate deals too.
Yeah, you can always go to 2x2capitalmanagement.com. So and review us, look us up, and see what we're about. Go from there. If you have any questions, shoot us an email. We're here to help.
Yeah.
We're here to really discuss life and do life together and work out a product that works for everybody. I mean, when you really think about this, if you take the principle for the church and the planting of the church, and you deliver that to the people of this message, and you start helping people have something different in life and teach them how to obtain these opportunities of cash flow, then we've done the same thing we've done for the church. We've allowed them the opportunity to have freedom from the world and how it's running right now, but not freedom to sin, not freedom to take that money and do worse with it, but it's to take that money and do good with it. And so we want to preach that too. We want to make sure that we're giving a good message on how to treat the good money that you're going to get. A lot of people who have never had money typically really go off the deep end when they've got money. And so for us, I want to be able to teach how to do this, but I also want to guide and mentor on how to remove those bondages that hold us into these places, to think that alcohol and drugs are the right place to be, and sex and these things are right for us, and they make us better and stronger and greater and more powerful, and that it's just not. It's all a ruse. Power's in the Word. Strength is in God. Everything else comes. You can have lack and have so much. And you can have so much and still have lack. God can fill that void. And I want to fill that void and help people fill that void and find Christ at the same time.
Awesome.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But so that's where I'm at.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, thanks so much,
Yeah.
Chad. We'll see y'all soon.
Yeah.